Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, a massive power outage at BEC cripples BTC and leaves hundreds of thousands without phone and internet service. The Minister of National Security says prison inmates are still committing crimes behind bars. The Democratic National Alliance slams the PLP's crime policy, and one of the founding fathers of the PLP laid to rest. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 starts right now. Well, today was not a good day for BTC. That's what the company's CEO, Jeff Houston, and likely many thousands of Bahamians had to say today after almost 500,000 of BTC's customers throughout the country lost service after a power surge at the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. A statement from BEC said a system surge took place at around 8:15 this morning, resulting in an island-wide outage. The system said all customers had their power supplies restored by noon, and an investigation is ongoing to ensure that these occurrences are minimized. But it took much longer for BTC to get its customers back online after the surge. The company said a redundancy protocol, which automatically causes its Poinciana Drive plant's generator and batteries to kick in, didn't last very long. So even when commercial power was restored, key platforms remained offline because they required substantial time periods to reboot. BTC's executive body held a press conference late this afternoon in response to the system failure. Houston said in his 25 years of experience in telecommunications, an outage of this magnitude is the most significant.
This is another one of those experiences where I think that we have got a lot to learn. We are extremely apologetic for the impact that this has had on our business customers, in fact all of our customers, not just our business customers, and that we are going to learn very quickly from this exercise, and we are going to learn very quickly from whatever the investigation throws up, and we are going to do whatever we can to make sure it never happens again. And if that means we have to invest even more in our network, if we have to change the design, if we have to look at our processes, if we have to look at our people, we're going to look at absolutely everything.
Looking at our system to build additional resiliencies into our networks. So from our perspective, we want to make sure that our new networks that we build are totally resilient. We have all of the redundant facilities in place. We have the backup facilities in place. We have geographical redundancies in place. So like Jeff mentioned earlier, the new network that we're building, which will be totally different from the legacy network, we'll have resiliency both on land, geographical resiliencies, redundancies as well. So hopefully, in the very near future, we won't see these kinds of outages happening again in our network.
According to Senior Vice President of Technical Service, Antonio Stubbs, all customer services will be restored by late this evening. However, Houston is hoping the company can soon restore confidence in its customers after today's system failure.
It is questioning a lot in terms of our network and what we need to do actually to continue to fix a lot of our underlying issues. We do recognize that we're going to have a little bit of a challenge to recover a lot of that faith in our customers and their confidence in us. But I can say that we are absolutely committed to continuing on this journey to modernize and fix up BTC and to, in the end, bringing a significantly better experience to our customers.
Right now, the company is in restoration mode for its thousands of business customers, according to the CEO.
For most of our customers, full service should be restored by late this evening. For some of our business customers, it will entail us working hand in hand with them to bring up their services, because that takes more dedicated effort, particularly where customers have had outages on their PBX systems. So our request is, get in contact with us as soon as you can, and our account managers and service teams are actually proactively contacting customers now to bring those business customers back to service, and I'd like to think by tomorrow we will have them all back and running.
Houston called today's outage a rare occurrence, which means that technicians are still investigating exactly what went wrong. However, he said the company is prepared to take whatever measures necessary to prevent it from occurring again.
Depending on what actually the cause has been, we don't know yet, so we don't actually know what the level of investment may be. And we don't actually know whether it's a people issue, a process issue, or a platform issue, or a technology issue. that's something that, whatever our investigation determines the cause of this, we will deal with it.
According to the CEO, today's outage will cause a delay in BTC's ongoing system upgrades, but only by a few days. Last week, BTC said it was planning compensation packages for its customers because of the disruption in services because of the upgrade exercise. The company is not sure how it will respond to today's outage.
So we're looking at all forms of compensation right now. And obviously we had top of mind doing something special in consideration of what happened last week as part of our upgrade. This one has taken us by surprise. We're going to need a little bit of time now to reflect on this to see what we do next.
The financial impact of today's outage has not been determined. Houston said the company is certain that there is one. However, it's more focused on its customers right now. Well, while BTC went down for hours, Cable Bahamas was not affected by today's outages. Television, broadband, and Rev Voice customers stayed up and running throughout the entire day today, according to Cable Bahamas head of marketing, Dave Burrows.
The good thing is that we have backup systems throughout each neighborhood, as well as inside the home itself when it comes to the voice systems, which make sure that we have a very strong communications backbone. Commercial clients we were able to contact, and they were still able to make phone calls, whether they were to local Rev Voice customers or long distance phone calls. So their operations were able to have some continuity during that period of time, which of course underlies the importance of having more than one communications network in a country.
Cable Bahamas long-distance customers were still able to make calls out of the country today and use internet phone service. Burrows said Cable Bahamas' ability to remain online in the face of BTC's network failure is a clear-cut case for having more than one communications network in the country. And in other news tonight, National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage today asserted that there are only 5 classes of criminals who should be placed behind bars. Nottage also revealing that both prison officers and gangs are committing crimes from behind bars. Our Jasmine Bonamy has details in this next report.
Minister of National Security Bernard Nottage outlining who he thinks should and should not be incarcerated at Her Majesty's prison, saying the prison system should not be the first line of defense in the fight against crime. Nottage says there is a desperate need for a complete understanding of the role of correctional institutions in society. His comments came as he was addressing the 6th Annual Association of Caribbean Heads of Corrections and Prison Services and Caribbean Association of Corrections at Super Club's Breezes this morning. Nottage insists the fight against crime should be a multifaceted one that goes beyond the traditionally hard-nosed approach.
While tight-fisted policies may be a popular posture, the evidence is clear that only when prisons are used as the sanction of first resort for hardened, dangerous, violent offenders, but the place of last resort for petty, minor offenders, society tends to be safer.
Nottage adds that he believes those convicted of petty crimes should be treated and rehabilitated and not sentenced to hard time unless absolutely necessary. He says much of the overcrowding at Her Majesty's prison is due to minor offenders being incarcerated. At last count, 869 prisoners call maximum security home. That facility was built to hold up to 450 inmates. Speaking candidly, Nottage said he believes only 5 classes of criminals should ever call Her Majesty's prison home.
At the risk of again being wrongly accused of going soft on criminals, I would suggest that we need evidence-led data to guide our policies with respect to incarceration. And the evidence seems clear that whether convicted or simply charged, prisons should be reserved almost exclusively for 5 categories of persons: violent, dangerous offenders, drugs, arms, and illicit and human traffickers, multiple recidivists, child molesters, and corruption offenders. Persons charged or convicted for non-violent petty crimes should, as far as is possible, be consigned to prison only as a measure of last resort.
And while overcrowding has long been an issue for the prison, Nottage says there is a relatively new trend rearing its dangerous head amongst the prison population. According to Nottage, the emergence of prison gangs has led to many murders in New Providence.
Given the poisonous, insidious impact of gangs within our penal system, no effort should be spared to eradicate them by all lawful means possible. In the case of the Bahamas, I am advised that organized gangs within our prison system are a relatively new phenomenon. Not only do gangs spur violence, but they are often central to hits being ordered on law-abiding witnesses and ordinary citizens.
The National Security Minister also noted that the smuggling in of illegal drugs and cell phones remains a major concern. He attributed the problem to what he termed a small band of rogue officers. But despite the many issues, he says the Christie administration plans to address them all. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
Well, that conference Nottage opened where he made those remarks brought together 12 CARICOM heads of prisons and 60 delegates representing prison officers from across the region. During the 5-day conference, prison officials are expected to cover a number of topics, including team building, leadership skills, and health and safety awareness. Retired Commissioner of Prisons for Trinidad and Tobago and current president of the ACHCPS, John Ruger, says prisons across the region face many of the same issues, but the main concern is overcrowding.
The energy that exists among correction leaders in the region over the past 4 years suggests their capability and readiness to move corrections or prisons to where it ought to be.
Chairman of the CAC, Kenneth Elliott, adds that while they are faced with many challenges, theirs is often a thankless job. The leader of the Democratic National Alliance has accused the government of being too soft on crime. For a party that claimed to have all the answers when it was in opposition, Granville McCartney says the Progressive Liberal Party is proving to be the same old PLP. In fact, he says National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage should be ashamed of himself for some of the comments he's made on crime. The DNA leader urged the government to stop what he called idle talk and deal with this country's crime problem. Bonnie Toot reports.
Since coming to office, the Progressive Liberal Party has launched crime-fighting initiatives like Urban Renewal 2.0 and saturation patrols, and plans to relaunch school policing when schools reopen in September. However, leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Granville McCartney, says he is not impressed. He says the PLP made crime a political issue and heavily criticized the F&M government. However, this new government has failed to be tough on crime.
The movement of derelict vehicles and houses, well, that's fine and dandy. But we need to get into the minds of these criminals. Just like other places in this world, that if you do the crime, you're going to pay. Make some examples, Christie. Make some examples. Make sure that there are consequences, that these criminals realize that there are consequences. I have to live in this country, and I certainly expect the government to get hard on crime, get tough on crime.
Following the launch of Urban Renewal 2.0, police boasted of removing derelict vehicles and destroying abandoned buildings in some inner-city communities. However, McCartney says that sounds more like an environmental issue to him. He questioned how that would reduce the high level of violent crime in New Providence. More than 20 people have been murdered since the PLP came to office. The DNA leader also hit out at National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage, who said the government would review anti-crime legislation passed in Parliament last year and called conditions at Her Majesty's prison inhumane. McCartney says Nottage should be ashamed of himself.
You don't go to jail to live in a resort, you know. If you believe that if you know that the prison is not going to be a fun place, don't do the crime, man. Don't do the crime. And what the Minister of National Security said, I was stunned to hear that. We need to increase these penalties. Talking that foolishness. Should be ashamed of yourself.
McCartney also called the government's plan to hold a public meeting on crime a stalling tactic. He says Nottage had enough time to get the public's input on crime when he chaired a parliamentary select committee to examine the crime problem under the previous PLP administration. McCartney says if he were Prime Minister Perry Christie,
I would be mad as hell if the Minister of National Security announced what he did. I certainly, and I would be surprised if Mr. Christie agreed to that, especially in light of what they said. They're supposed to be in a position now to get moving, not to be asking questions. And if I were the government, if I were the Prime Minister, my National Security Minister said that, I certainly would be mad as hell.
Following its launch last summer, the DNA held a town hall meeting on crime and released a national crime plan. At the time, the party pledged to establish a national intelligence consortium, build a nationwide security surveillance network, and create programs for young people if elected. McCartney says if the DNA were in power, it would have been busy implementing a number of initiatives listed in its national crime plan. He says he plans to present this document to the National Security Minister. Reporting for NB12, I'm Monique Toot.